Hi everybody, welcome back to Geezer Rider. In this video we're going to discuss the pros and cons of buying parts and accessories from the dealer and having them install it versus going out on the web and finding it yourself or at another retail store other than the dealer and installing it yourself, or having that other third party do the installation. So as usual, we will get right into it. If you have been watching this series, you know that we're trying to give you middle ground, trying to give you the information so that you'll be the most prepared regardless of which way you decide to go. If you want to use the dealer, if you want to use third party, if you want to have the dealer or the third party do the installation or do it yourself. I would strongly suggest you go back to the first video where we give our working definition of what a motorcycle manufacturer dealership is. And, there's some thoughts there. They're neither evil incarnate nor necessarily always the cheapest way to go. There's pros and cons there. So encourage you to go back and look at those videos and the other videos in this series as well, where we talk about buying the motorcycle, etc. If you have any comments, please leave them to the video. Give it a thumbs up if you like the content and you would like to see more of this style or subject matter, rather. There is no style here. As I said in the introduction to the channel, production values are low. I'm never going to be able to have the time that I need to put together, the type of storyline and visual effects and everything that the other channels are able to provide. They seem to have innumerable resources, some of them. So what we do is try and give you good content and arm you with enough ammunition to make a decision and fill in the gaps where we've looked at a topic and decided there wasn't enough detail, or things were omitted, or everything wasn't all in one place. And that's the purpose of the channel. That's also the purpose of this video. And as always, please subscribe if you want to get notified when new videos are added to the channel. So let's start with buying an part or accessory from the dealer. Why would I want to do that when there's so many online options? Well, not all the online options have accurate fitment information. That is this part applicable for my bike? Will it fit? Will it function? Will it not hurt the system, overburden the system? And if there are any warranty concerns, how is that addressed? The dealer has that information. If you've ever been on eBay and you have seen the little banner that says, will this fit my vehicle? And you've clicked it. I've gotten hits where it said this won't fit your vehicle when it clearly was for my vehicle, or in this case, motorcycle. I've had other hits where it said this doesn't fit, your vehicle, your bike, and it obviously did. And other times where it said it did, but it didn't. I probably messed up the order of that a minute ago, but you get the general idea. And some of the larger retailers are now starting to include fitment information and a bit more detail. Just by my personal experience, I would say at the front of the pack is probably Revzilla, and also the dealership themselves. And we talked about how to find a dealership that you feel is worth giving your money to and worth your time talking to. And that's in the other video, the overview of the dealership. So the dealer has, we talked about the real estate on the floor when we talked about buying a bike, right? So they're not going to stock a bunch of junk. Every now and then, somebody comes along and says, hey, sell this, and it's not the greatest thing since sliced bread, or, has some quality issues. But in general, their floor space and their rack space for parts and components is too precious to store a bunch of junk. It's generally the manufacturer's brand, but depending on what dealership you go, sometimes they'll stock other products. So when you go there, and just from the purchase point of view, from a part and an accessory point of view, there should be somebody there who can tell you if it fits or not, what the burden on your bike is or not, and how it's going to affect reliability and rideability. And you should be able to talk to somebody who has installed this thing before. Normally, whatever they have on the floor, they also install, and they should be able to give you some free advice. You know, they're not going to sit there on the phone with you and walk you through every point of installation. But if you have some general, or you got into it and you have some specific questions, if you have a good relationship with the dealership, they should be able to help you out. If they're unwilling to do that, you might want to reevaluate that dealer relationship and think about if there's a better dealership that you could work with. Something else to think about when you are talking to the dealer is, can they install this for me? If I don't have the time, I don't have the tools, or I don't have the skills, can they install this for me? And there's a lot of us that do our own work. And I can tell you, I personally have a lot of experience in installing parts and accessories on cars, trucks, lawn tractors, motorcycles, you name it. And every now and then something that comes along that's really formidable, and I'll get to that in a minute. So if they have installed a variety of these things, they already know the trials, tribulation, and pitfalls. Even in this modern age, both the printed documentation that might come with something and the online instructions are often lacking, and sometimes literally wrong. I mean, just outright wrong, incorrect information provided. So, they can help you with that. And again, if there are warranty concerns, they can usually, describe to you what's going on there. And should anything go wrong with either the component or the installation, you have one throat to choke, right? You have one person or entity to go back to and say, this isn't working right. Can you help me out? Can you make it fix it? And it should be, they should honor 30 days or something like that. And this is especially true of electrical components, because a lot of times most places won't take electrical components back, especially if you tried to install them. The warranty is void the second you unpack it and try and hook it up. If you break open the packaging, that's it. It's unfortunate, but it's very common policy. So again, if anything goes wrong and the dealer sold you the part and they installed the part and they stand behind the part, you've got less of an issue if something goes wrong. And one of the most common accessories is lighting, which most people wouldn't really think of as a component, but a lot of the LED lights come with some kind of little module, either to control modulation, flashing, or, change a circuit that was meant for an incandescent bulb to use LED. And they consider that electronic component and won't take it back in some cases. You want to talk to the dealer if you're going to have them install your parts and accessories to see if they will deviate from the instructions. Well, we just talked about, the accuracy of instructions. So let's say that whatever instructions came with the part or the accessory is absolutely correct. Why would you want to deviate from the instructions? And as you notice here, unusual, we don't normally have a lot of visual aids, but I got a couple of props here today. And here's one that's a good example. And I'm just showing you Curry Aiken because it's a brand I like a lot. And I'm going to say a couple of disparaging things about Curry Aiken, but I want you to, I want to lead with the fact that I bought a lot of their products. I continue to buy a lot of their products. I like them. Sometimes they're the only one filling that niche. They're either for the look or the style I want, or the only one making the item that I want. So I will use this Tour Pack light. So I am a big fan of safety and visibility. I like adding rear lighting whenever I can. And one of the things I noticed is I have a Harley-Davidson tour bike. And as you can see in this picture here, there are saddlebag supports that I filled in with these two LED lights that have 132 LEDs on each side. And they add a lot of visibility. They're running, driving, turn. So they're all, something's always lit back there. But the problem was up on top of the Tour Pack here, which you should be able to make out in this picture, there's no light. Well, why is that a problem when I've got, the power of the sun down here with these lights? If you have something that's sitting up higher, like a tall pickup truck or a tractor trailer, unless it's pitch black at night and they can see varying intensity here, a lot of times they can't see the lights. So I put a Tour Pack light up here, and this light here sits up in that area and points upward just ever so slightly so that somebody can see. And this light is, you know, run, turn, brake, so they can see what's going on there. So why am I saying that I'm going to say something detrimental about this? As well engineered as this stuff is, there's a drawback. And I've noticed this in a number of their products. I have the saddlebag lights. So in the hinge is a reflector on the Harley Davidson saddlebags. And you take that apart and you put in this segmented LED and it adds side visibility, bright red LED light shining out the side. And they have the same problem as this. This is going to be a less common problem, and that is people very rarely take their tour pack off the bike completely, but it's hardwired all the way up to the battery. So why am I calling that out? You know, almost all accessories do that. Well, there's no disconnect. There's no plug between the battery and this device, so that if you want to take off the tour pack, you have to come in and clip all the wire ties. You have to take the seat off. You have to disconnect the thing from the battery. You know, it's just unnecessary steps, and it would have added another, you know, let's be generous and say it added another $5 to the cost of this. I would have gladly paid it not to have to go out on Amazon or eBay, buy waterproof connectors, you know, decide where I'm going to put the brake and the wire and install everything and get it fitted right. So that's one of my personal pet peeves. Again, not many people are going to take their tour pack off, so this is less of a concern. But the other lights that I'm talking about that went in the saddlebags, and I don't have a box for that. Your saddlebags you do take off quite often. You take them off for cleaning, you take them off for maintenance, and it's just simply ridiculous that they don't have a quick disconnect. So I had to go out and buy waterproof connectors and design a system and everything so that I had a quick disconnect and I could take the saddlebags off. You know, I have actually put comments on Curry Aiken's website. They're generally fairly responsive. They listen to their customer base and just said, hey, this is a fault throughout your product line. And in this particular instance with the saddlebag lights, it's just unforgivable. It's dumb. You know, for $5 they could have put plugs on both sides. So the reason for that whole rant is to double back to, will the dealership's service department deviate from the instructions of the install? If you say, hey, I want to be able to disconnect these, you know, can you find and put waterproof connectors on there? Some will, some won't, but that's a discussion that you're going to have. And if they are well versed in this product, let's say they also sell, let's say it's a Harley dealership and they also sell Curry Aiken, however you choose to pronounce it, in addition to the Harley parts, hopefully they've installed some of these things, and that is an issue that they'll know about and they'll talk to you about and just say, hey, just know this, if you go to take the saddlebags off, you have to clip all this stuff off and, you know, disconnect from the battery. If you're a person who, for whatever reason, went to the dealership to begin with to have this installed, that might be something that you want to consider. Like, you know, well, if I couldn't put it in, I probably can't undo it all and take it off and then put it back on again. So I would like to know if you guys could put those connectors on for me. And that's true of, you know, deviating from the instructions for anything. I just needed to give you an illustration, you know, a specific example. The other thing is, if you don't see what they have on the floor, can they get you the part or accessory that you want, you know, from a Drag Specialties catalog, from, you know, whomever the retailer is, they might buy something. Sorry, I've been watching the videos and I seem to smack my lips quite a bit, so keeping hydrated. You know, can they order other stuff? And if they do, have they ever installed it before? Same thing, deviate from the instructions. So those are considerations. And then there's always the evil cost. You know, oh, they mark it up. Oh, they charge me a lot for labor. And if you've watched the other videos that I have put up about the dealership, we talk about the reasons and justifications why those prices are higher and why they might be worth it, right? Your time has value. You sometimes can get the job done through the dealership cheaper than you going out and buying even inexpensive tools, but buying the appropriate tools to get the job done right, plus all your time and everything. Sometimes you're just ahead of the game, letting them do the work for you. And again, one throat to choke, right? If anything goes wrong, you go back to them, and if they're a stand-up place, they're going to stand behind the product and the work. So, parts is pretty much the same as accessories. Parts, is a little more specific in regard to a warranty, compliance concern. But again, generally they won't stock junk. They don't want to see you come back with a problem. They want to touch it once and be done with it. So it's in their best interest to provide you with a good product, provide you with a good installation, provide you with a good result. Because every time they have to pick up the phone because you have a problem, that's not necessarily leading to a new sale unless they handled you really well and win a customer over for life, some of those situations. But in general, they're starting to lose money if they're having to touch what they touched before again. And that can be just answering questions on a phone call, or you wheel it back into the service department. So I think we gave a pretty good idea of why you might want to go to a dealership to either buy your parts or accessories or install your parts and accessories. So why would you want to get them from online or a third party? Well, the third party probably either stocks or can get, because they're not limited by the rules of their franchise, a wider variety of parts. And I'm not saying that the dealerships can't do this, but not all of them can. Some of them have franchise limitations about what they can buy from whom or whatever. And you can't necessarily always walk in with something you bought from somewhere else and ask them to install it. So if it's a third-party retailer, maybe they'll do that, or a third-party servicing institution. So your variety might change if you go to a retailer that does service that's not manufacturer's dealership, and there might be more things available to you. But the dealership, the manufacturer's dealership, when you talk to them, when they install something, if I'm out on a trip and this thing's still under warranty, so I've got a 30-day warranty, and on day 15, I leave for a 2-week trip. And on day 27, I have an issue with it. It's still within the 30-day warranty. Can I have that work and that part honored at another dealership? Or are they going to have reciprocity in another manufacturer's dealership? Let's say it's a Suzuki, right? Can I go to any other Suzuki dealership and get that honored or not? And with the third party, if it's just your local town's motorcycle shop, the guy that repairs bikes on the side or whatever, you got to get it back to him, you or her. You can't just take it anywhere. There's less likely to be reciprocity with some other shop that way. So that's probably the primary concern with going to a third party, either for installation or buying the part. And they're going to also have some markup. They're in it. Obviously, they enjoy doing it to some degree, but they're looking to make a profit too. So it's still not going to be cheap. It might be a little cheaper than the dealership, but you're starting to compare. Is it apples to apples or apples to oranges? Well, it's apples to oranges because they don't have that dealer network. Some of the other concerns we mentioned. And you want to have that conversation. Will they deviate from the instructions in the case of, we outlined here with some of these products? Will they put those disconnects in there for you, for example, or will they only do exactly what's in the instructions? Then last but not least is, buying it online. So the same is true there if you follow the heated clothing, heated gear series. You know that I'm a big proponent of being able to go in and lay hands on something or see it installed somewhere. So if you've already gone to, and we'll use Kuryakin again because they show up at a lot of the motorcycle events and shows, the big shows, they have examples, mock-ups, or sometimes they're installing a product on a customer's bike. So you can go up and look at it and they demonstrate it and you can see it and you can talk to somebody about it, installing it. So maybe you have a general idea of what this thing is and I think I can install it myself. So I'm going to go online. And at that point, you're just shopping for price, right? But don't be so quick to shop on price alone that you forget about their return policy for electronics, which can include lighting or any other part. And, you know, what is their mechanism for, you know, returning this thing if it doesn't work, if it's DOA or it craps out after a couple of weeks? Do you have to go back to the manufacturer? Do you go back to them? Do you have to pay shipping both ways? You know, you have to take a holistic look when you're buying online and you're just trying to save money. Is it a false economy? Are you really saving money? Or is the aggregate of, you know, the RMA process, paying the shipping both ways, you know, do they have a restocking fee? Even though you're getting a replacement one, they charge you 10, 15% to restock the old one. You know, read that fine print and make sure you know what you're getting into. You don't want to be on the hook for basically somebody else's problem that they passed on to you. And that is, you know, you got a bad part. And this does happen. I mean, not every, you know, even with testing and everything, sometimes things go bad. So you have to anticipate that 10 to 25% chance that something will go wrong, and how am I going to remediate it? The only thing that's going to make that problem worse is if you're on the hook for a lot of money, or you lose the entire investment and have to start over again. So that might be a reason that you want to buy items online. Generally it's price, or you can't find them locally near you. And the other is that, you know, the price is going to be lower. So let's talk for a moment about installation and your skill sets. And I said a moment ago that I've done a variety of installations and everything, and I will use Kuryakin as an example. So on the front fairing of my Harley Davidson Tour Bike Electroglide, the front fairing has a couple of compound curves in it. So a compound curve is one that curves not only in this direction, but in this direction at the same time, or progressively. They have lights that are referred to as bat lashes, and they fit in the front of the fairing. So you're seeing the reverse. This is my pointed fairing, the headlights facing at you, and these things would mount on either side of the fairing, and they have to align in those compound curves. The installation of these things was one of the most challenging accessories that I've put on in a while, and I actually bought them and did not install them for almost 9 months because I just couldn't get them lined up right. And I was waiting for a motorcycle event where I knew Kuryakin brought their tractor trailer to the event, and they were actually installing a pair on a customer's bike, and they were uneven on the customer's bike. They were close, but they were uneven. And I have a big problem with symmetry and OCD and stuff, and wanted to make sure that I got it a little better than just close. It was just a bugger to get these things fit, to the point where I was almost thinking of not installing them and just leaving them on the shelf. There's a running trend on some of these do-it-yourself videos where it's like, oh yeah, I banged it out in 5 minutes. Another guy says, yeah, I finished it in 4 minutes. Oh, you're a loser if you can't do this in 3 minutes. And the reality is it took them 5 hours. I don't know what whether it's a joke where the rest of us aren't let in on, or they're inflating their ego, why people say these things. But the installation videos that I saw for these things left out so much information, and again with the disconnect issue as well. So I finally determined that I hadn't seen anybody that had installed these things correctly. And again, even Kuryakin's own techs hadn't installed it correctly. And I got pretty darn close. Nobody else notices, I think, but me, but they're not 100% correct. They were really fussy. And the only way you're going to know if you're going to be in that situation is by doing a bit of research and, seeing them in person and deciding whether this is in your skill set. And in this unfortunate circumstance, I wasn't able to find anybody that I thought had the skill sets to do any better than I was going to be able to do on my own. But, again, see, visualize in your own mind how you can get to that point where you think that you've got enough information that you either know you need to go to somebody else, or you think you can do it yourself, or you can do it yourself. You're not going to do a perfect job, but everybody else hasn't done a perfect job either. So why should I pay them $50, $150, $350 to do the installation for me? So I know there's a lot to unpack here, and some of these videos go long, but again, I think there are probably a couple of details in here that you might not have thought about, and that's the whole idea is, we're not trying to bore you with my monotone drone with all the detail, but just to prompt you to think about something that you might have left out of your personal equation when you're making a decision, because ultimately you don't want to be tooling down the road and having something not be right and having it nag in the back of your mind that you lost money, wasted money, or the thing's not quite correct, or oh my God, I've got to get my belt changed on the drive line and I can't get the saddlebags off because they're hardwired and they didn't leave me any slack or a loop or anything like that, no quick disconnects. Just think about all those things so that you can enjoy the ride, right? That's what this whole channel is about, giving you information so you can get out there and enjoy the ride. I hope this helped you. I hope you found it good enough to give it a thumbs up. I hope you liked the other videos enough to subscribe to the channel. And as always, you're more than welcome to leave a comment or a suggestion. Ride safe. Namaste.